Good breath.
We made it to Friday. For me, it's only been a 2-day work week after having Monday through Wednesday off, so I could probably work 2-day work weeks all my life. That's incredible. But back at it to wrap up this week. But there's no shortage of stuff for us to tackle. A couple of segments today we'll get to. We'll talk about how your tax dollars were spent with a new audit that's released, but here's the catch. It's an audit from over 2 years ago. We still don't know how much was spent even after that. So shared a conversation with Truth in Accounting's Sheila Weinberg and also Comptroller Susana Mendoza, talking about the importance of transparency when it comes to state spending your tax dollars. So we'll get to that. But up next, we'll do a follow-up to a story that the Center Square had last week of State Representative Jed Davis raising red flags about the state's child welfare agency, the Department of Children and Family Services, and the use of interns in investigating families. So we'll talk with him live here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Again, go to thecentersquare.com where you can sign up for the newsletter each and every weekday morning. You'll get headlines in your inbox. Also, if you're feeling generous, we are a nonprofit newswire service, so you can go and donate at thecentersquare.com. And again, keep in mind, it's not just Illinois. You can go and check out news from all kinds of states, including what's going on in Washington, D.C. We've got field reporters everywhere, and it's right here with thecentersquare.com. But don't forget, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel for not just Illinois in Focus Daily, live with you each and every weekday morning, where you can join the live chat. But you can also get the podcasts and video clips here at the Center Square's YouTube channel. Again, not just what's going on in Illinois, but also stuff happening across the country. So go check that out. All right, we'll get started with State Representative Jed Davis joining us next here for Illinois in Focus Daily. Don't want to miss it. It's right here each and every weekday morning, only with the Center Square. The state's child welfare agency has long had myriad issues when it comes to protecting the health and safety of children that may come under the state's children that are being abused. So a lot of things that they need to do above board in order to keep children and families protected. But is that all being done above board, or are there unqualified people investigating families, which could lead to some bad outcomes? We'll talk more about this now here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, editor at the Center Square for Illinois. And we're joined by State Representative Jed Davis, who has been raising the alarm about this issue for several weeks here. Representative, thanks for taking time with us here with Illinois in Focus Daily. So I want to just let you kind of explain the genesis of you discovering that there are unqualified interns conducting investigations of families, and what kind of outcomes you're familiar with from that, but also your response to DCFS saying that you're getting your facts wrong. Oh, sorry, Representative. I apologize. Go ahead. Mic is on now. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, it's been quite the saga the last couple of weeks. I appreciate the opportunity to chat. A family not too far out of district, their case kind of crossed my desk based on some relationships I have with parental rights groups. And I started looking into it in conjunction with those additional resources. And they had a son removed from their home, which I'm a foster parent. I mean, that happens. And a lot of times kids are in danger and we should remove them. But in this instance, the investigation was led by an intern. And man, if you have this is just the crux of the issue. This is a sacred role, right? And if you have somebody knocking at your door, you want to make sure that they have the relevant experience to actually conduct a full investigation, because interns, by the very definition, are lacking that experience, and it's very easy to miss something. And I firmly believe the complete package that intern put together and then presented to the courts is not a full investigation. And it also violates state statute, because it's very clear that you need experience to be the lead investigator in these cases.
Representative, obviously, DCFS has responded to your claims here and said that you've got your facts wrong, but you say you've got documentation showing that this is happening.
Yeah, this is mind blowing to me, because even if you just take the law aside, when I go out and I stand in the public forum and I ask families, because you always think this won't happen to me. I'm sure this family thought that as well. And now it's almost been a year and there's 70,000 into the legal fight. So it can easily happen to anyone. And when I ask the public, is it okay to have an intern lead an investigation on your family and ultimately have the ability and authority to remove your child? I haven't got a single yes from anyone. And that's why when you go back to the law, it's very clear that an intern needs to become certified. They have a license, a CWEL, Child Welfare Employee License, but all you need for that is a bachelor's degree and you take an exam. You have zero experience. To become certified, statute says, and CMS job titles say, you need 2 years of relevant experience, and then you can be promoted to certification, which I've taken their own documents, DCFS documents, and sent them to the department and said, why is the language here that says you can be promoted to certification if you're telling me all you need is your CWEL and zero experience to investigate kids? I think they're legally exposed to significant ramifications, like big legal exposure here. So they're doubling down and just continuing to push back, which is sad, because we're not doing what's right by Illinois families.
You know, I'm looking at some of the documents you have you sent out with your news release yesterday, and some of them are from 2017, for instance, talking about trying to get more investigators, but it clearly does show an indication that they're utilizing some interns, the intern training protocol that has spelled out how they're used and such. Has that changed at all? Has DCFS pointed to any kind of procedure updates to clarify the role of the interns in these positions?
No. In fact, they referenced 2017 documents back to me yesterday. We're essentially at a stalemate with them. I was exchanging emails with the director, and she said, look, we're never going to agree on this issue. So we're kind of at a draw, which is unfortunate. We're definitely going to bring some legislative solutions, because I am not going to rest at all on this, because it is unlawful. These individuals are uncertified, and they're knocking on people's doors and making the decision whether or not to remove a child, which is alarming. It is a scary and frightening world for families to live in. And it is... They did say, hey, we updated the intern policy. I asked for it. Send it to me. It should be a simple attach a PDF, send. It's almost been a week and a half now, and I haven't seen any kind of reply from the department on it. So it's just nonsense. They keep, like I said, doubling down on a case that is obviously the law is on my side. And I, too, just real quick, I've talked to other attorneys. Like, I'm not out on a limb. I've talked to high profile, very competent attorneys from really nationally renowned law firms in downtown Chicago. And they themselves have, and this hasn't been a 15-minute conversation, they've locked themselves in conference rooms for a week and dug through every document imaginable. And they come out and say, Jed, the law's on your side. You are right on this issue. I am telling you, there are interns, and it's more than just one instance, that are going out and investigating families as the lead investigator with no experience in making the determination whether or not to move your child.
Part of your news release included documents, as we mentioned, and one of those was an Inspector General report from 2017. Talk about that a little bit. What's so significant about what's in that particular report?
Yeah, so there's an adoption specialist, and it even says right in there that the adoption specialist isn't certified. And so what the department is trying to get everyone to believe is that the C-Well license, that the child welfare employee license is certification, because there's two different parts of statute. One references the license, the other references certification. I'm saying they're distinct and separate. Why would they be in two different areas of statute? The department is saying the C-Well is the licensure. And then I show them their own documents. Again, to get a C-Well, you need zero experience. So what the department is telling us is we can send people to your door with zero experience, and we're okay with that. Again, I think they have legal exposure, which is why they're taking that stance. But now I'm sending their own documents back to them that talk about an adoption specialist who, by their very definition, to have that role would have a C-Well. And it's talking about how they're not certified. And they're like, oh, it's outdated, kind of ignore that. Like, you don't understand the nuances. I'm like, well, why are you using that language then? Because I'm telling you, that's what the law demands of them. So this is this hamster wheel that we're on where they're continuing to deflect. We're laying down solid, relevant evidence, which they just shove under the carpet because I think they're afraid to come out and admit what's really happening to the families in Illinois.
And I'm looking here at page 187 of that Office of Inspector General report, and I'll just pull this up as we're talking here. After laying out what they found, they gave some recommendations that adoption specialists should be disciplined up to and including discharge for breach of confidentiality. The department should ensure that adoption specialists statewide have completed all required training for adoption certification. It says the department agrees. Is that enough? I mean, do you need to see some actual substantive changes in black and white in order to alleviate these concerns?
I just thought we could come to a table and reach a great compromise. Like, we're not trading baseball cards. We're dealing with kids. And I've seen the ramifications as a foster parent of removing kids from home. We're talking about decades of emotional trauma and scars that will need to be unpackaged. And rightfully so. Sometimes you need to remove kids from harm. But we can't just send an intern to the front line and expect them to make the best educated decision for that family because they lack the experience. Like this, I keep saying that, but it's such a simple thing. And I can't even believe we're here. That document you just read, the department came back and said, well, that's an adoption specialist. And I'm like, exactly. Like, if you're dealing with investigators, so you're telling me that this is, you would think, the most critical role in all of DCFS because they have the ability to remove children. So why would they be held at a lesser standard? It is just nonsense, the stuff that they're coming back with. And I was so hopeful that we could just have an adult conversation, but they are unwilling. So we're going to bring some legislative solutions. And I'm sure, and I told the director yesterday, I think time will be the ultimate judge of who's right on this. And I will be anxiously awaiting for the day when it proves that we are interpreting the law correctly here.
Representative, we're heading into an election year. How do you have concerns, I guess I should ask, that this isn't going to be made as a prominent issue veto session or even spring session next year because it's an election year, right? I mean, you've got Democrats in control of the General Assembly. They control what hearings are going to be had and what legislation advances. Do you have concerns that they're not going to want to hear about this in an election year where Governor J.B. Pritzker is heading for a third term?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't help but kind of make that connection, which then politics. So we're putting politics before Illinois families. I mean, that's the outcome of that discussion, which, man, we need to bring this to the people because when you, again, bring it to the public forum, I haven't found a single person that sides with the department. They're all saying, no, you need the experience to remove kids. And it is a sad day when we're trying to protect politicians over protecting the families of Illinois, which just breaks my heart. And it's like, why? At times I think I'm having a hard time getting other, elected officials along my side. And I believe it's because this is a little politically risky, right? I'm out in the fray. I'm in the weeds with a massive department in the middle of an election year. And people are having a hard time coming along because it's a lot easier to just shake hands and talk about the cost of living, which is relevant. But man, when we're elected to be the voice of the people who are voiceless in government at times. And this family is being choked out saying, I have a child that has been away from me for almost a year, an intern put together the report. Why doesn't the law recognize that? How's the law just being disregarded? And then you start going down that trail. Well, there is an election coming up. Nobody wants the stain of that on their back. So we leave these Illinois families in alleys to fight alone in the dark and literally dip in to their parents' retirement incomes to lead this fight. And we just go on and talk about the cost of living and how we're helping Illinois families. The whole thing is horrifically sad.
If legislation doesn't advance to, clarify this and to have some kind of accountability, how can the courts get involved here and hold DCFS accountable? I mean, are they going to be, found violating some kind of consent decree somewhere, or how does this play out if the legislature doesn't address it?
Yeah, no, I on the legislative front, we are going to file bills, but I'm going to put some resolutions up too and just lay it out for everyone in the General Assembly. Here's the resolution. Here's what it says. Are you on or are you off? Will you even call it for a vote? And that will speak volumes, and we'll be sure to push the outcome of that here shortly as we get back together in October. But man, the courts will be fascinating. I think you're going to see some legal action. This family's not alone. As soon as we took a public stance on this, the floodgates opened in our office. I mean, we are getting contacted every day by multiple families with their concerns and issues of their own dealings with DCFS. So we're helping to kind of sort all of that. But I am just saying this is going to be a big issue. There are going to be attorneys that get around these families and help support them and bring them back in front of a judge. And it may take, this stuff sadly doesn't take a week. It may take 1, 2, 3 years to get there, but I truly believe there will be justice at the end of the day.
The governor's been asked about problems with the Child Welfare Agency really since before he took office in 2019. And here we are now, 2025, still substantial problems. And he says, listen, it's a big agency, and typically, people will just fire somebody, and then they have, a head that rolls, and they think that that's going to rectify things. But, he says it's a big agency, and there's been long built-in systemic problems that they're trying to address, but he says that he's doing the work.
Yeah, like that you might be able to buy that excuse for your first 1, maybe 2 years. But when you're starting to run for your third term, you have better had it straightened out and have a record to run on. If you're going to point back and say, here's my record with the department and how we're helping Illinois families and protecting kids, like that record is abysmal. We've got failures all over the department, and you can't just keep doing the same and expecting different results. And that is exactly what the governor's doing. They called me, literally, I saw the email. A reporter sent it to me and said, Rep Davis is lying. It wasn't like, here's facts, here's why, here's how our side views the situation. It was one sentence, and it said he's lying. So this is what we go to. I lay down evidence. I lay down multiple documents, and I've only shared a couple with the media. We have sent a litany of stuff to the department, and they just keep saying doesn't apply, doesn't apply. It is crystal clear when you read it, but they just keep shoving it under the rug, and the governor's office sends one sentence back that says Rep Davis is lying. So they're not even willing to engage in an actual dialogue about facts and documents that are on paper, which is a betrayal, I think, to the voters of Illinois.
State Representative Jed Davis, greatly appreciate you connecting on this, and I assume we're going to get some more updates as we try to get some clarity and actual substantive change that you're seeking. So we'll talk more about this in the future, no question.
For sure. Thank you.
All right. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. Be sure to wake up with us each and every weekday morning here, and we'll keep you informed of what's going on at the Illinois State House and beyond. All right. It's right here with the Center Square. doing a live check here. Saw some comments in the live feed that the audio's not synced. I did notice right when we started that segment with Representative Davis, there was a brief disconnect and then it came back on. So if you're still seeing some lip sync issues, give me a thumbs up for the live feed. Of course, the audio podcast isn't going to have the lip sync issue, but live streaming is a fine art, I think. So it's interesting to see that. But just keep me posted there. Obviously, we do this live to tape, and we do segments of the live show, so we'll make sure that those segments are nice and synced up. Looks much better, Bill says. All right. Came back about 5 minutes ago. Okay, interesting. I'll go and review that and see what happens. Appreciate the heads up on that. Sometimes you guys are my eyes and ears to make sure that the show looks good and, is something that you guys can actually watch without being annoyed by lip sync issues. Okay. All right. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Happy Friday. One segment left here. We'll get to it in a moment right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of The Center Square. Illinois taxpayers finally finding out how much the state spent of their money in the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2023, more than 2 years ago. But we're still waiting for the fiscal reports on how taxpayer money was spent for a fiscal year that ended over a year ago. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com, where we're looking at this one, Illinois' fiscal year 23 financial audit released amid criticism of tardy reports. All right, so let's dive into this. I've been covering the State House for 11 years now, and one of the big stories when I first came in was understanding how late Illinois' financial reports have been. And it's been like several decades that they've been tardy and not having financial reports out for over 2 years. When they're going and, crafting budgets, they don't really know how the previous year's money was spent, let alone how the 2 previous years' money was spent. So there's been a lot of effort to try to highlight the lack of reports, but now you can get the fiscal year 2023 report at the comptroller's website and at thecentersquare.com. You can link up to it there. But I did connect with Comptroller Susana Mendoza at the Illinois State Fair on Governor's Day to talk about the annual comprehensive financial reports and its tardiness, but also why it's important that this thing comes out in a timely fashion. Here is Comptroller Susana Mendoza sharing some of her thoughts with me last week at the State Fair. And go. 1, 2, 3, go.
Certainly been waiting for it, and I've made my displeasure with the delay, I think, very, very clear. As you know, I cannot physically produce a report without the audited data. It's been a source of my frustration, but thankfully we now have that report filed, and I have filed immediately, within 24 hours, an interim report for fiscal year 24, and we are now working towards finally getting fiscal year 25 to be on a statewide auditing system instead of individual agencies, which no other state does. We're like the only holdover of this archaic way of auditing, and so hopefully for fiscal year 25 we'll have a brand new system that means on-time audits as it should be.
Why is that important?
Well, because first of all, I think taxpayers deserve to know how their money is being spent. Our interim reports give them an idea, but it's not exact. And the credit rating agencies obviously need to know that we're managing money wisely. And the legislature, when they're crafting budgets, should be operating off of the most accurate fiscal data from the prior year. So it's really just common sense. It's unfortunate that for almost 3 decades now, the state of Illinois has produced incredibly late audits and therefore incredibly late reports. But I'm doing my part since I took office to actually change that. And I think we're finally there, hopefully in 25, fingers crossed. We'll have that first year There might be a few hiccups, but moving forward, it should be smooth sailing.
So the idea is that they are, instead of doing individual agency audits to then compile to make a full statewide audit, they are doing just the statewide audit to get that out faster. But it's not the comptroller conducting those audits. It's the Illinois Auditor General that conducts those audits, and they have to work with the governor's office and state executive agencies and all these other agencies that are spending your tax dollars to get that finalized report that's audited by a third-party agency to have a stamp of this is officially audited. Truth in Accounting, they are a nonprofit educational outfit that looks at spending from governments and how taxpayers are impacted by that. They regularly put out reports about state-level spending, city-level spending. You can find more of their work with Truth in Accounting, including the reports they do about the state's spending, including Illinois. And Illinois getting grades, we'll talk about that with her in a moment. But I connected with Sheila Weinberg, the founder of Truth in Accounting, and she reacts to the most recent audits that is now out for a fiscal year that started over 3 years ago and ended over 3 years ago. Taxpayers just finally seeing the audited financials.
Well, number one, my initial thought on the release of the Illinois annual financial report is that it's a little bit late. This is for June 30, 2023. So it's more than 2 years, 770 days after the fiscal year end. All of the other states have been able to get their reports out. Most of them have 2024 out. And Illinois finally released this. We are not the last. Nevada, unfortunately, hasn't released theirs. The Auditor General has he made a quote. He's quoting the Governmental Accounting Standards Board that said, if financial reports are to be useful, they must be issued soon after the reported events to affect decisions. And I think there's been a lot of decisions that have been made without this useful information. For example, budget decisions, spending decisions, borrowing decisions. But we finally got this report.
So the report is out now, and you've got the comptroller saying that she's working to speed things up. In the conversation I had with Sheila Weinberg yesterday from Truth in Accounting, got her reaction to that. It's good that we're going to see some quicker reports. Mendoza saying that for fiscal year 2025, we'll get a faster report. She hopes, fingers crossed. Here's
it's
Sheila.
Very interesting. She's mentioning, would that be June 30, 2025? What about the June 30, 2024? Those are not out. Should we expect those, 2 years later, next year at this time, or are those going to be a little bit faster? The state has not had a good history on releasing these on a timely basis, and they have reached a new high in the number of days, which I would consider a new low.
More about Illinois' finances. You've got Sheila Weinberg from Truth in Accounting, who reviews all states' spending, their transparency, the levels of debt that they have, and Illinois regularly failing in their annual reports from Truth in Accounting.
No, unlike the credit ratings, who don't give Illinois a good grade, but it's not as bad as we think it should be. We usually give Illinois an F. I do not anticipate they're going to get better than an F. We did find a shining note. We found that their what is we care about, which is their unrestricted net position, did get a little bit better. It went from a negative $205 billion to now we only have a negative $195 billion. What this number means is this is the money that future taxpayers are going to have to pay, money needed to pay the bills that the state has already incurred. We also found that the state received a qualified opinion. As accountants, we always want a government or entity to receive a clean opinion, but the state received a qualified opinion, which means that the books aren't, I think in the past they've received what we call a disclaimer. They've flunked their audit. They're a little bit better this year. They only got a qualified opinion, which means the financial statements are okay, except for one issue. And the one big issue in Illinois is the Department of Employment Securities. They were not able to get a sufficient amount of evidence to determine whether the amounts reported were accurate or not, or whether the amounts that were paid to claimants was accurate, or were those claimants even eligible for that money. And then we also found once again that this Illinois pensions are woefully underfunded. Each one of the plans, the state employees plan, the teachers plan, and the state university plan, they only have less than 44 cents available to pay every dollar that benefits that they have promised. So they've gone ahead and promised these benefits, and they haven't put enough money aside to pay these benefits. Meanwhile, the state has claimed that they've balanced their budget, but the way they've balanced their budget is to push these pension costs, these compensation costs onto future taxpayers. So we really consider that the budget has really not been balanced.
Again, that's Sheila Weinberg from Truth in Accounting. Conversation I had with her yesterday about the state finally releasing the fiscal year 2023 audited financial statements. All of this happening, right? I mean, even the comptroller recognizes that these financial reports need to come out in a timely fashion, especially for when legislators go to craft budgets. And here we are, we approved, as the General Assembly did, a $54 billion spending plan, the most expensive spending plan in state history, based off of tax increases that kicked in across a variety of different avenues on July 1st when the budget year started. And they did all of that, spending the most, without knowing what they spent 2 years prior. Again, Sheila Weinberg addressing that question of, here we are with the most expensive budget that we've had in the state of Illinois ever, but they did that without knowing just how much they've spent in previous years.
Yeah, I consider budgets, and we do very little analysis of budgets because they are what we call political math. They just seem to, come up with numbers from wherever. Obviously not from what they've done in the past, not from their audited financial statements. And, and again, they claim they balance their budget, but they're balancing their budget by not paying more than $5 billion into their pension plans. So this would be like, Greg, you saying, my budget's balanced, but I'm not even paying the minimum on my credit cards. But by not paying the minimum, I'm able to claim that my budget's balanced.
So we'll review more of audited financial statements coming out of the Auditor General and the Comptroller's Office, and just what exactly it means for you, the taxpayer, and how your money is being spent. But again, we only know the audited financials from the fiscal year that ended over 2 years ago. And we still don't know the audited financials of the fiscal year that ended over a year ago. And we've already started a new budget year with the largest state spending plan in state history. It's always fascinating to get into the weeds. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning here for Illinois in Focus Daily. All right, that's all I got for you this morning. We got some stuff we're going to be watching today. Speaking of audits, the Legislative Audit Commission, the bipartisan group of state lawmakers, they meet today. They could be tackling some tough audits concerning the Department of Human Services, which we've talked about has myriad problems as well. So that's going to be happening today. You've got the governor. He's got a couple of events. He's even signing some final legislation that's on his desk after signing 269 bills in the past week or so. Then you've also got the U.S. Department of Justice. I believe today is the deadline that they have to file an amended complaint against the state of Illinois, Cook County, and city of Chicago over its migrant sanctuary policies. So we'll be watching out for that filing as well. A lot of moving pieces that we're keeping an eye on. So be sure to get the newsletter in your inbox each and every weekday morning at thecentersquare.com. And wake up with us each and every weekday morning here for Illinois in Focus Daily. But don't forget, you can get a kind of best of Illinois in Focus during the weekend, but also a fresh Illinois in Focus weekend edition where Jim Talamonte delved into these stories and more. So be sure to like, subscribe, and get that notification bell. Or just get the podcast where you get podcasts. Search Illinois in Focus Daily. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday morning.